Okay, welcome back, everybody. So we left off in the middle of Nefesh Hachaim, Shaar Aleph, Perek Tes Vav, and the story until now was that the Nefesh Hachaim was describing the neshama, or more important, I don't know about more important, but not exactly describing the neshama, but where the neshama is. Where's the neshama? And he gives an example, if you recall, that you have nefesh, ruach, neshama, starting from the bottom to the top, nefesh, ruach, neshama, and the neshama itself comes from, as we all know by now, tachas kisei hakavod. That's where neshamas are made, tachas kisei hakavod, and then it's brought into us, our guf, elikai, neshama shenosata bi, nasata bi. The neshama enters into me. Nasata bi v'loi kuloi, it seems to be, because he gives an example to, if you'll remember, to a glass blower, right? And the glass blower blows from his wind into a pipe, and on the other end of the pipe is a very hot piece of sand and heated up, and by blowing into the pipe, he's taking what he is, right? Man de nafach midilei kanafach. He's taking from himself, blowing it through this pipe, and then where it's ending up is expanding and creating something on the other end, which is glass. In the case of the mashal, it's glass. In the case of the nimshal, so you have the neshama. Neshama is similar to the word neshima, which means to breathe. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. And what you have going through the pipe is the ruach. Ruach means the wind. And that's going into the nefesh, which is us. So we're not really, says the Nefesh Hachaim, getting the neshama, but we're getting, it's not like the glass is not the person who's blowing into the glass. And what we call the neshama, which is really the nefesh part of the neshama, is not really the neshama, but it's the tail end, the product of the neshama and the ruach. So just understand clearly that when we say neshama, then it becomes a sort of a catch-all phrase for really three things, which is laral, nefesh, ruach in neshama. It's really a catch-all. So that's why you find a lot of times you say nefesh ha'adam, ruach ha'adam, ruach ha'kodesh, the nishmas ha'adam. You have all of a lot of sefer that are named after all the chaye adam, nishmas adam, nefesh adam. A lot of things that are named after all. It's all talking about different components of this one process which we're analyzing now, which is the neshama, which is named after the neshama, but it's not really the neshama. It's really the neshama which gets blown from HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol into this system of the world, which is called ruach. And if you're a big tzaddik, you can chop something in this ruach. You get ruach hakodesh, right? And then there's the nefesh, which is us, simple people, which are not so simple, but we're the tail end of the neshama. So we have, when we say Elikai neshama shenosata bi tahirahi, it's in a way it's loyduk, because it's not the whole neshama that's coming into me, but it's the neshama which is blown through the ruach, which comes through to the nefesh, and that's the neshama shenosata bi. And tahirahi ata berasa is the lashon of bria, ata yitzarta, which is all compatible to these three steps. Ata yitzarta is the world of yitzira, ata nafachta bi. So there's like a pirush. Elikai neshama shenosata bi tahirahi. Now pirush advarb three things. Ata verasa, ata yitzarta, ata nafachta bi. So it's somehow we're like the tail end. We get this neshama blown into it. That's into us. So that's the neficha that the Torah is talking about when it says vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. Nice, neat package. We understand what our neshamas are. Big chiddush here, by the way. What we're learning right now, what I just said, is a big chiddush, and I'd like to tell you what the chiddush is. But but even just in the basic understanding of it, it's a chiddush, because what it means is that we don't really have a neshama per se inside of us. We have the nefesh inside of us, which is the glass or the product of the neshama.
It sounds like the neshama level of the thing, like the first level. It sounds like it does somehow reside, or maybe is flowing through the mind, because it's the seat of the neshama, is the higher level in the brain.
How do you know that?
Because we've discussed it before, that there's a connection between the brain, the heart, I think that was the liver.
Right. So you're saying this process is within us itself.
The process within us, and there is some remnants of it, or some process of it, that is continuing to be associated with different parts of the body.
Okay. So, which sounds like a little bit of a steer to what we're learning. So let's see if we can do something about that. So what we're learning now, I don't know if I hope you have a sefer, because the words here are important. But he explains all this. That I'm just going to read it very quickly. What I just said. Ubechidas haruach. Or let me start a little bit earlier. Kei b'dibyan zeh. We're in Parak Tes Vav in the middle. And right after he gives the bushel of the glass, he gives the nibshel. And I just want to go through this quickly because we did this already. Kei b'dibyan zeh hu idin ha-b'chidas gimel b'chidas nefesh ruach neshama. Just like the glass blower is 3 parts, so too is this process of neshama 3 parts, called nefesh ruach neshama shebushpaim kivyachol b'neshibas piv yisparech, like b'bedayik here, shebushpaim. They're mushpa. When you say something is mushpa, it doesn't mean that that's what it is, right? If I'm mashpia on you, that doesn't mean you're me. It means I have an effect on you. So mushpaim, right? Or in the chemical world, the scientific world, one thing is mashpia, it's a catalyst. One thing is mashpia on the other thing, but it's not it. It's just a mushpa. So mushpaim kivyachol, so to speak, b'neshibas piv yisparech shmai shebechinas hanefesh. The bechina of nefesh, hi ha-bechina ha-tachtoina, which would be us. Shehi kulai, or kula, b'toich guf ha-adam. Is everyone following me? Yeah, you have it? Kula b'toich guf ha-adam. That's already, the nefesh is already within us. So l'shama shelasata be, before the pirush of ata v'rasa to yitzarta to the fachta, before that pirush, what we're saying, the l'shama shelasata be, would have been more meduyik to say the nefesh shelasata be. But it says neshama, which is often a catchword. Ubechidas haruach, hu derech, hu ba derech, eirui milabala. Like you're going from a kli rishon to a kli sheni. Eirui kli rishon. The neshama is pouring into us like wind. Shechelik v'kotza elyon shalai kasher v'nechaz l'mala b'bechidas hatachtoin shal neshama. Because where it starts off is by the kisei hakavod, which is in the world of bria, different world. But that's where the neshama starts off. The katzeh ha-neshama, the end of that neshama, goes through a ruach process, ubishtal sheles, and works its way down. V'nichleses gam b'toich gufa adam, ubiskasheres sham b'bchina ha'yoyna shel ha-nefesh. So it's the bottom of the neshama up there to the top of the nefesh up here. Now remember also we learned about Tanya is masber this more than anybody I saw, which is there's a difference in the nefesh itself between the nefesh halikis and the nefesh habahavas. These are not words that are so common other than in the Balatanya. Nefesh halikis and nefesh habahavas, not to be confused as everybody likes to take it with Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov. That's a different idea. But it's the nefesh halikis that in my nefesh itself there's 2 places, if you will. One of them is the part that was just really mischaber to the neshama on the bottom of this pipe. And then there's the nefesh habahavis, the human part of it, which a behema has. It's just the goof. It's the equipment, the hardware. Nefesh habahavis, the hardware. But so the hardware is now being, you turned it on, right? You pushed the. Very nice. Yeah, yeah. That's the difference. The nefesh halakis. Is that what you mean? The nefesh halakis is the ruach memalala. The ruach is where we're hopping. We're so close to the neshama ruach And my Nefesh Elikis is so close to Ruach that I can actually talk. And that's what makes me different. That shows me that there's a Nefesh Elikis, which is an overlay to the Nefesh Habahabas. So we have it's like a biological structure that I'm showing. Like if we could easily make a chart of all this, right? Nefesh Habahabas, Nefesh Elikis, Ruach, and on top of the Ruach is the Shaba, which is the world of Bria. And on top of all that is the world of Atzilus.
Where's Yechidah?
Left up. Up. Not only that, but the neshama itself, if you'll B'dayak in Chazal, Gemaras, the neshama itself, I said comes from the Kisei HaKavod. Some comes from Lamala B'Kisei HaKavod, some comes B'Tachas Kisei HaKavod. The different kinds of neshamas itself, not our subject right now, but even the neshama itself is mechuluk in what's coming down. But it's all there in the world of Bria, which is Kishmai Kedhu. That's the world of Bria. Rashis bara Elikim as Hashemayim Esaretz. And most important with all that is the Adam. So the world of Bria, this is where creation starts. Without the world of Bria, you just have Atzilus. Atzilus is the world of Hashem, not Hashem. Hashem is Chaya, Yechidah, not Hashem. And Leis Machshava Tfisa Bey. We don't even talk. You know, the Reb Chaim Vital, in his Oitzers Chaim, so maybe Parak Beis, of Oitzers Chaim, he says, don't be confused. He says this 2-3 times. Don't be confused and think that when we talk about Atzilus, we're already talking about Hashem. We're far. I mean, Hashem is everywhere on the one hand, but we're still not talking about Hashem. Hashem we don't talk about. The whole Kabbalah doesn't talk about God. It's talking about a process. It's all talking about the process of Bria Sa'olam. And we can get it. We can. I don't know how much we can understand Atzilus either, but at least we can know the words. We can identify a world of Atzilus. But the Chaya Yechidah, we can't even identify the world of Chaya Yechidah. We just know it's there. Yeah.
I heard it correctly say that the reason it says the Shama should not have to be is because the Nefesh is already in us, and then at a later point the Neshama is blown into us?
No, I didn't say that exactly. I said something like that. I said that the Nefesh Habahabis is already there. In the world of Machshava, that's called the Goylum, like made out of clay. You know, it's just a goof. Nefesh Habahabis is the animation of the goof. The animation of the goof is not yet the neshama. Something's alive, something's dead. You can be a rabbit, be alive, be dead. That's not the point. You die, so maybe you lose your Nefesh Habahabis, but that's not we call it Yitzias HaNeshama. Again, there's a lot of catch-all phrases. Nefesh ki sechta. You have to like look intelligently as you go through even these parshas, Tazria, Mitzayra, the parshas that we're up to. What is Tuba? Where is Tuba? What is called? What does it mean? Nefesh ki sechta. What does it say? Ish ki sechta, as it often says. These are Nefesh yitameh. There's certain parts that are Makabel Tuba, certain parts are not Makabel Tuba. Mikvah is not Makabel Tuba, the Neshama is not Makabel Tuba. The Neshama itself can't become, you can't be Mataba your Neshama. But what you can do, God forbid, is disconnect from the Neshama. You can disconnect, clip this whole pipe and disconnect, and the blower is blowing into the wind. So, that's the answer, right? So, meaning, like, this is called, in biblical language, kares. Kares, quick, short circuit. The whole problem, you could divorce yourself so much from this process that you're basically a behemoth that's talking, and you can become like it's a subhuman state. And that's called kares. Very hard to get back, kares. There's a lot of different levels of kares itself. Kares could be kares yikaresu. There could be a kares where you're cut off in this world. There's a kares where you're just kares from Olam Haba. The idea is the idea, on a positive note, the idea is to stay connected. That's the idea. The idea is to stay connected. And when you're connected, and when you do what we're supposed to do in this world, so then you remain in this, when you die, you go back to the world of Neshama, and then by Tchias HaMesim, you come back into the goof, into a goof, whatever. So that's the concept. The concept is to try to create something within us that's going to last forever.
So is it true to say that when a baby is born, that they have no problems, the connection is...
It's clear.
Because they've done nothing.
Yeah.
And then we spend our lives
Disconnecting. Disconnecting.
Where's that Nefesh Behemoth come from? Is that also through the pipe originally?
Not from this Vayipach Ba'apav. Not from this Vayipach Ba'apav. It's like the same way trees are alive. The same way animals are alive. We don't find that God went around Gan Eden blowing into the nostrils of every antelope. You know, it's either alive. So the answer is, which is exactly my point, that this is not what life is. Life is not about, or life, I don't know what life means, but being alive is not about having a neshama. Trees are alive. But what we're talking about here is this special feature, right? The special upgrade of the Nefesh HaBahamis, where it actually connects to the cloud. Right? It's actually connecting all the way up. K'may shekasuv, ad ye'are aleinu ruach mibare. The pasuk in Yeshayahu Laban Beis. Ad ye'are aleinu ruach mibare. Yeshayahu says, wait. They asked him a question. He says, wait. Ad ye'are aleinu ruach mibare, until the ruach will come and flow into me. Wait, that's what his nevuah was. That's how he described his nevuah. Esh boich es ruchi, the Yoel Hanavi said. Esh boich es ruchi. It's a different metaphor, but the same idea. It's not talking about air. It's talking about esh boich, I presume, is a liquid. Mushba ba'adam derech shvicha ve'eroi kanal. We're going to go into this. Now, so that's the process, and that we've talked about in the previous weeks. Now, if we're talking about the neshama, that is the neshima atzma shepnimius atzmusa mistateris behelem. Hidden. Hidden.
But everyone breathes, even animals.
What? So what? No, we're talking about Hashem's neshima. Hashem's neshima. He ha-neshima atzma. In this whole process that we've been describing, there is the breath itself of Hashem. So ha-neshama, bechinas ha-neshama is the neshima atzma. In other words, go back to the wind blower. That's the neshima that we're talking about. Hashem is giving us a neshima. That is from the neshama, very close to the neshama. He ha-neshama atzma. Shipnimius atzmusa, that the essence of that neshima, these tateris behelim, gets more and more hidden as it goes along. Ubakaira baruch kivyachol, but its makar is baruch kivyachol b'toich nishmas pivis baruch shmai. Oh, mine says baruch. That's probably better. Baruch. Baruch also works. So the neshima is a connection, but where is that? B'toich neshimas piv yisbarach shmai kivyachol. She'ein atzmus. This is really the sentence that I want to discuss now. She'ein atzmus bahusa nichneses klal b'toich guf ha'adam. Underline. She'ein atzmus bahusa nichneses klal b'toich guf ha'adam. That the bahus, essence of Hashem, does not enter the guf ha'adam b'chlal. Everybody agree? You have an opinion on this? Ein, this is a great sentence. Ein asmus, like finish. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to listen to anything else except read this one sentence. Get it clear. No, I don't think so. She'ein asmus mahusa, but that's good, means you're right there. Ein asmus mahusa nichneses klal b'toich guf ha'adam. Adam arishoin, koydem achet. Zachalat Musa. Meaning, you're going to ask me a kasha, says Reb Chaim Volozhin now. Isn't it obvious that Adam Arishon had within him Atzmusa Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Not sure why that's obvious, but let's say it's obvious, right? To him it was obvious. That's a good kasha. Adam Arishon, kind of achet. But, Ubesibas hachet nistalka b'toicha v'nishar arachif efes alav. What happened is that when Adam Arishon did the chet of the Eitz Hadas, out went the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu from within him, and now it's choifefes olav.
It's interesting because the Nachash enticed him by saying Visam Kelokim. Over here it sounds like he was actually closer.
Right.
That's how the Nachash Dafka got him on this, and then made him go
I mean, what would have been the further upgrade?
right.
But that's exactly the point, that you are so, this is Nachash's part. You are so, no big, you don't have to listen. You're so atzmusa yisbarach that you could just do what he's doing. What are you taking orders from? You're. But usibas hached nistalka b'toichai. So we had it, but we lost it. V'nishara rak choifefes olav. Lashon HaGemara is that El Hashchila Be'az. It's Lashon of the Gemara. Be'az, that Adam Rishon was chayte with the chet of the Eitz Hadas. From that moment on, the Shechina was never yored lamata me'asar tzvachim. The Gemara in Sukkah. Right? The Shechina was never yored lamata me'asar tzvachim. Asar tzvachim is the Kaimas HaAdam. And now the best we can do is choifefes olav. You remember, it says in Shulchan Aruch that the person's about gaiva and you're walking with your nose up in the air. So doichekes ragle hashchina. Like here's the shchina. Or so many gemaras in halacha. If you're sleep prakted, if you sleep on your back, that's called a chutzpah klape the shchina. So many things are revolving around this halacha of the post sin of Gan Eden, where now the Shechina is no longer b'toichenu. I would presume the Shechina is b'toichenu, you can sleep any way you want, and you get to put your nose up in the air also, because the Shechina is b'toichenu. But now that it's l'mala mimenu, and it's choifefes olav, so this is a very important to the Nefesh Hachaim to make this point. Chaim, you want to say something? No, got to about Har Sinai.
He says Moshe.
Levad.
The pasuk of the is quite what's it Kollel
What?
After Adam was quite what's the pasuk that the Kollel Shem or the Shaar, what was the Ruach Elokim
Earlier.
That's before, right?
Vayischabe Adam.
That's the same
Vayischabe Adam Bagad. Ruach Elokim Ruach Efes B'toich Hagad. There was a
it's the same lashon, right?
different. No, that's Mirach Efes. This is Chof Efes.
But it's the same shorish.
Maybe. Chaf is to cover. Or to divide. Chafifa is like to make a distinction between Chafifa.
The Holy Wood is doing before is based on Vayipapa Apam Nishmas Chaim, and there he's taking that and saying that's like classical. That's where everyone's. Now he's saying now is that Ruach Chaim is
Don't happen.
different. That's a different Ruach.
It's it's a pellet. No, you're right.
Doesn't make sense. How could it be that? That's,
Right.
That's a whole
He's taken away our whole.
proof for everybody, and then he's saying that's different. How them was different. So what was
Meaning that it's the same process. It went into Adam, and being that it went into Adam, now it was Mistalekes Mimenu, but we're still we're genetically children of Adam. So what happens is that we had it and we lost it, and perhaps we can get it back. Understand this. I want to talk about it more on Shabbos, the Turkey Avosh here. The real tikkun that we're trying to get back is not to have nicer oranges from Gan Eden, but the real tikkun that we're trying to get back is to get the Shechina labata me'asar tzvachim. When we talk about Mashiach, what we're talking about is getting back to a paradise state, a Gan Eden state. That's what we're looking at with Mashiach. So, which is what I speak about. That's the tikkun, but. Kind of about tikkun, there's a golus. So it's not just a golus that we're running around, in the world with no place to, like a bird without a nest, and Holocausts and pogroms and inquisitions. That's a symptom of the whole detachment, if you will, of not having the Shechina b'toichenu. But you see, Lubavitcher Rebbe ended off every one of his talks that we should be zocha. Everybody ends with the gula. Whenever a speaker is talking, He starts at the end talking about we should be zocha to the Geula. That's when everybody knows they can wake up and start getting ready to go. He was talking about the Geula now. But the Lashon of the Lubavitcher Rebbe is a Gadol B'Yisrael who was Medayik, and as you say, Medayik in his tradition, that we should be zocha to the Shechina Lamata Me'asara Tfachim. That's what he's mamish. That was always his ending. We should be zocha to the Shechina Lamata Me'asara Tfachim Ba'agola Didan, and it should be in our igul, if you will. You know, Ba'agola Didan. And even the Nusach Svar of Vayatzvach Perkane, we need to speak about why do they add that little, that's a mischievous piece, that Vayatzvach Perkane. So of Nusach Svar, that the Hasidim, like we're Madgish, even though they don't say the whole log, you know, they don't say that all, but they got that Vayatzvach Perkane in there. So there's a lot to be said. So that's what happened. Look at this, Yaakov. Levad Moshe Rabbeinu. Achakasha. What about Moshe Rabbeinu? He was up there. So literally, he was up there. So Vad Moshe Rabbeinu Olav Shalom Shizacha Latzmusa Toich Gufay. Okay, all of a sudden Moshe Rabbeinu is also. So we have Adam Kodem Achet, Moshe Rabbeinu, another one. Zacha Latzmusa Toich Gufay V'lachem Nikra, and that's why he was called Ish Ho'elikim. Ish Ho'elikim.
Always, or only when he went up the...
Always. Once he went up. Got more so afterwards. You know, we don't hear from Moshe Rabbeinu anymore after Har Sinai too much until he died. It's like 38 years, we didn't hear a word from Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, he heard from Hashem and wrote it down and told everybody, that's all Mishnah Torah. There's 38 years of secrecy in the Chumash, that whole time in the Midbar, where Moshe Rabbeinu was Atzmusa Yisbarach, and he had to wear a mask, a veil, because nobody could look at him. This was the Atzmusa Yisbarach. So now we have another exception to the world. You know, Moshe, why? I mean, Mad Dochar Shmei. Like, how did that happen?
So why isn't that a Avodah Zarah?
Oh. Ki yadua, question is registered.
What's the question? Why is it
Well, I'll explain this question. Kayadua shekol gibelei labais, a little technology here, that all gibelei labais beriya, yitzira, asiya, bibchinas hadishaba, dilahoinu labalahu elikus gaber. Once you get to the world of, out of the world of asiya, you get into bria, yitzira, atzilus, bria, yitzira, you're godly, you're otherworldly. So otherworldly, that's where Moshe Rabbeinu was. That's the Ish Elokim, hu Elokus Gabor, says Reb Chaim Volozhin. That's Elokus. Moshe Kosav Beitz Chaim, Shaar Atzelim. Aleph, Uberei Shaar Tziyad Elabis, Atzilus Bria Yitzira Asira, Bakdabas Rav Chaim Vitalu, Bashar Hashevis, Perak Aleph. Okay, he knows. I'm just... the important limud here, again, I just said that one line, and I just show you how important it is for sure he says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ein atzmus mahusa nichleses klal b'toich haguf ha'adam. We have two exceptions. Adam Rishon Kodesh Achet and Moshe Rabbeinu. Achar Achet. And what's the third exception that he doesn't bring? Mashiach. Vadavesta. How do you know?
It's got to go back.
Because that's the tikkun. Yeah, we spoke about it, right? Mashiach. And of course, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be Mashiach. I'll tell you, he wanted to be Mashiach. Like a lot of people want to be Mashiach. There's a whole hospital of people who want to be Mashiach. But he wanted to be Mashiach in the sense that he wanted to bring the final Geula already. Yitzias Mitzrayim, go to Eretz Yisrael, V'zeu, that's it, back into There's a lot to say about this, but let me just say, for the purpose of this Chabura, let's say the following: that I believe maybe the Nefesh Hachaim that you have there talks about this, But I believe that the Dafka, as Doran said, the Nefesh Hachaim here is coming la'afuke, the Balatanya. So at least superficially, because the Balatanya likes to be said, and it's often quoted, that a person is a Nefesh Elikai Mimal Mamish. Nefesh Elikai Mimal Mamish. Talking about all of us. All of us. Once you have a Nefesh Elikis, so he apparently doesn't hold, and so much, just to go to the end, you can see so much difference between whether you hold that a person can be Atzmusa Yisbarach, a person could actually contain HaKadosh Baruch Hu within him or not. For one thing, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I'm just saying the natural logical outcomes is you could end up with a Yashka. Okay, God now is walking this earth in the Guf HaAdam, which we feel is completely philosophically untenable. I agree. I'm not into it. I'm just I'm saying that would be the logical outcome of. So let me just show you something which I've spoken about before, but just a little chazar. The Rambam in Shuva in Perek Gimel, so he says, Chamisha Hein Halikroim Minim. There are 5 people that we would call a min. He's classifying who has a Kollel Haba, who doesn't have a Kollel Haba, who's an apokars, who's a kofer. So in Perek Gimel Halacha Zayin, he says there's a category of apokarsim called minim, a min, and a min. By the way, the kinui in Chazal for Christians was minim. Yeah. Chol haminim v'chol hazeidim k'rega yavedim. Was talking about the early Christians. Chamisha ein nikroim minim. Ha'oimer she'ein shav Elihai ve'eloi lamadhig. Could be a min if you hold that there's no God, you're an atheist. Oimer she'ein shamadhig. Yes, there is. Aval heim shnayim v'yoyser. You believe in dualism or Trinity, shnayim or yoyser. Right? Christians like 3. But before the Christians, there were many sects that were dualistic. It was convenient to believe dualistic. That way you don't have to dualistically. That way you don't have to, worry about why the righteous suffer, because that's something else. That's the dark side. That's something else. Shnai v'yoser. Devil made me do it. V'oimer. Now there's another thing. Sheyesh oimer. Somebody says sheyesh shabri boyd echad. No, I only believe in one God. Eloshehu guf. Ubal tzmuna. Once had this debate with a Christian, so I said to him, do you believe in one God or 2 gods? He said, only one God, so Yashka. like you got me. like that's it. So you don't need any more. So you could also believe that there's a God, but he has a goof. So that's a min. Everybody accepts this. God doesn't have the incorporeality of God is basic. What we learned in Cheder, and that's to say God has a goof means that God has a limitation, because a goof begins here and ends there. So that's why it's philosophically untenable to say that God has a goof means that God occupies space. Right? He can't occupy space because space has limitation. He can't be in 2 places at once if he's a goof. He can't be everywhere. He can't say Molekol Arts Kavayda. So the whole thing doesn't work to say that God is a goof. Pasha, shute. Right? Like the Rebbe Galar to the Cheder, God doesn't have a goof. And if you hold like he does, if you're corporeal philosophically, so then you're a min. And here the Ravid famously says, on the Rambam, Lama Karla is a min. Why is that a min? You believe God has a body, you're a min? Many greater people than the Rambam held that God had a body. I love this Ravid. kama gedolim v'toivim mimenu holchu b'zu hamachshava. Why? Doesn't it say the Torah Yad Hashem? Doesn't it say that you can see my back but you can't see my face? Doesn't it say that Yimid Hashem Oisachayil? Isn't there 100 Raglei Hashem? There's I don't know. So who? He doesn't say who they are. That no, in other words, like I understand something that this is sort of a chiddush in a Rambam, that God doesn't have a body. Now, I always thought it's not that other people before him held that he did have a body, but it wasn't an important issue. Doesn't have a body, like, it wasn't really an issue to discuss. Why did it become an issue? Because the Rambam was arguing with Christians. And that was his ignorance. He was arguing with Christians. So it became important in his time to say, look, let me make something clear, that God doesn't have a body. Now there was what the historians called the Hagshama movement, Lashon Gashmias, Hagshama movement, the Kas HaMagshimim. So they were Rishonim, really, and earlier, that were okay with God having a body. Now they weren't. They lost this. They lost this machlokes because no Jew believes that God has a body. But there were, namely, there's a famous tshuva of Rabbi Lahar. You ever hear of Rabbi Lahar? He's a Rishon, a contemporary of the Meiri. It was a chavrusa of the Meiri, and he came from, what's the name of that city, Montpellier. Montpellier is a mountain, so he came from the mountain. So he was called Avram min Hahar. That's what it was called. He came, he lived up in the mountain. So he came a Rishon. He wrote one of the best svarim on a very difficult Masechta Yevamos. He was a real Rishon, but he writes clearly that it's okay to say God has a body. So you have a machlokes. The Rambam puts it into the Yud Gimel Ikrim. Now the issue here goes to your point of Avodah Zarah. Goes to the point of Avodah Zarah. The Rambam in Hilchos Avodah Zarah starts off by saying that this was the toast of the Dor Enosh, that they said, if God gave koach to the sun and to the moon, so why shouldn't we worship the sun and the moon? Well, why should we? I mean, if somebody builds an iPhone, so you don't worship the iPhone, like you realize somebody else built it. No, they held.
You also don't worship the God built after.
Also not because somebody built him, but what was as the Rambam's not to understand it superficially, understand it deeply. What was the toast of the Dor Enosh, that they said that Atzmusa Yisbarach went into that sun, into that moon, or let's worship a person in this case, and especially if you hold that person as Mashiach, especially you hold the person as Mashiach. Nobody should understand. I have no Christian tendencies at all. I don't want to let it go on record. No, I'm only being. We're talking and learning here. That's what started. That's what grew into. Well, that's the obvious outcome. The obvious outcome of not talking like Reb Chaim Volozhin, she'einat smusa yisbar. So the Rambam was clearly worried about the idea of God entering into Gashmias. And he says, can't be. You can't have any Gashmias tzura. The Ravid, look, by the way, the Ravid probably agreed with the Rambam. But he says that don't call him a min. Is that, Lama Karil is a min? What are you calling him a min? Okay, maybe it's a mistake. He even says here that it was a mistake. If you learn through Agadata, you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna think God has a body. You're not a min. It's not a min. So it's not like he's disagreeing with it. But there were those Heminu Bakach that did believe it was okay for them to think that God had a body, but they had the problem of, let's say in that case, Christianity, or if they would have lived in the Dor Enosh, or the Dor of Avram Avinu, they would have had problems with once you start with this idea. So the Rambam, by the way, Agav, is consistent throughout. I mean, there's many. I once wrote a whole kuntras on this in the Rambam. But for instance, we tend to learn as kids that the Urim V'Tumim of the Kohen Gadol was like some kind of a screen that was lighting up. Yes, no, maybe go to war, don't go to war. The letters are whirling up. The Rambam doesn't hold to the whole thing. The Rambam says that there was a kedusha of the Kohen Gadol who was wearing the Urim V'Tumim, and he was zeichet to a ruach mimarim. He had ruach hakodesh at that moment. There was nothing physical happening. The Rambam did not like the idea of physical things. So let me.
According to Nefesh Hachaim also, there are certain people who get atzmusa. So you could also say that
problem. It's a problem,
It doesn't really like,
especially
whichever way you say it.
you could still have a problem.
Yeah.
Still have a problem, but okay. But here's what I think. Here's what I think. The Rambam was worried about the Christians. So he made a point. The Vilna Gaon was worried about Shabtayim and the Shabtai Tzvi movement, and who Shabtai Tzvi, who I've researched, walked around by saying that he is Atzmusa Yisparach. Not that he's God, but he's godly. He has this component of God within him.
More than anybody else.
Mashiach. We understand do we believe differently with Mashiach? The Rambam does. Ein Mashiach, Elamelech Gadol, Ein Bein, but if you'll take the more traditional, if you will, level of Mashiach, we're holding a Mashiach is like Moshe Rabbeinu. They held Moshe Rabbeinu. So again, on Shabbos, I want to discuss the difference because it goes right back to what I'm talking about on Shabbos. But let me just say this Nakuda here with this Alan, our little overtime, it's Rosh Chodesh. The Chakira that the Rishonim, the Lashon of the Rishonim that they use is the Chakira, which is called Kollel Bais HaTalmud. Rav Dessler in the 5th volume has a chapter called Kollel Bais HaTalmud. It's what it means is as follows: a simple shaila, that when you talk about kedusha, let's say, kedusha, sefer Torah is kadosh, right? Everybody's standing up when the sefer Torah comes out. So sefer Torah is it ba'atzmusai kedusha, atzmusai, or is it a keli? Is it a sort of a goof, which let's go back to the lashon of the Nefesh Hachaim, shashchina choifefes olav, has kedusha, or is it the pshat that it's atzmusai kedusha? This is a big shaila, by the way, goof and hilchos sefer Torah, or mayor, a big shaila of the Gemara, how to understand a sefer Torah itself, but. The same thing is true with Urim V'Tumim. The same thing is true with Kodesh, anything that has Kedusha. The same thing is true with the Beis HaMikdash. The Abiroyim came to Eretz Yisrael, V'nashku kippah da'ako. They kissed the earth. What are you kissing the earth for?
The fact that we pointed to the Hekdesh shows that it's not the
Chara. So did the Gavra, not did the Chefza.
So
What?
Rob was saying something confused about.
The people kiss the earth. It's very beautiful. They always put it on Arut Sheva. Every time a nefesh for nefesh, like those people are those are the real guys that kiss the ground. And the Gemara says that the Rabbanim were lashke b'kippah da'ako. The stones of Akko. Akko was a port. They came into Akko. They kissed the ground. What are you kissing the ground? The ground is a keli. Okay, but we also kiss the sefer Torah, which is a keli. So, but.
Asking is the Keli. Well, it's not the Kedusha itself.
So it's a shaila of the Rishonim, whether all Kedusha is Kalim or Atzmius. There's a little bit of God in them there woods. there's some God there. Once you say, I'm not talking about what's right or what's wrong. How do I know what's right or what's wrong? I'm only saying that there are repercussions, there are dangers in talking about Atzmius Shel Kedusha. You're now walking on thin ice to distinguish ourselves from the religions of the world, to distinguish ourselves from false messiahs. Because once you say there's Atzmusay Shel, and by the way, I believe the Nefesh Hachaim strategically leaves out, he omits Adam HaRishon Kohen HaChet, Moshe Rabbeinu, and Mashiach. Where's Mashiach? Because what it seems like he's saying is that other than Moshe Rabbeinu, and even that had its limitations, there was no longer any matzav of Atzmusay Yisparach, but there was a matzav of Kalim. So he's telling us, which is, by the way, look, you can't deny the fact, I'm just explaining it, that the gisha, the approach, let's say, of Hasidim to a Rebbe, or particularly, let's say, Chabad Hasidim to a Rebbe, is different than a Litvak to even the Vilna Gaon, or Rav Shach, or pick your Litvak. You know. It's not, okay, you have a Gadol, I have a Gadol. You know, it's a whole different thing. This is like God. I'll tell you a quick story that I learned in Lubavitcher yeshivas when I was a kid in high school. I learned in Lubavitcher yeshiva, and then I left and I went to Rav Scheinberg. From there, I went to Rav Scheinberg. So felt a little guilty about that. I was young. I was 14, but I felt a little guilty. So I wrote a letter to Lubavitcher Rebbe. Asking, "Is it okay? Is it okay?" So I got back a letter saying, "It's okay. It's okay." You can. I got a letter. I still have it. A letter from Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's okay. And Rav Scheinberg, he says, very ish chashuv v'dagul ba'oid, has his haskama, and you should listen to whatever he says. That's what he told me. So this, before I actually got the letter, it was read to me by the secretariat of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I actually called at that time. You know what it was, to make a long distance call from Eretz Yisrael to New York. You know, you had to go to the Tachana Merkazit to make a long distance call. I'm telling you, that's the way it had to, because nobody had enough asimonim to put in there to call. You have to go. You have to buy it. It was a whole thing. What? What? If you want to use asimonim. So that's how you have to go. You have to go to the Tachana Merkazit and you bought a thing. And he's telling me this, and he told me, write it down. So I wrote it down. So he added, zugelegt, that the secretary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he says, so it's okay. So you can understand, he was like telling me, this was his pirush, you can understand that Rav Scheinberg is advising you and teaching you with the Rebbe's koichas. Which I thought was okay. So I at that time, young, and so I went to the Reshiva, Tzadik Livracha, and I showed him eventually. I didn't show him the letter, but I just showed what I wrote down for the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I said that it means that you're helping me with the Rebbe's koichus. So he took the letter and he threw it on the floor. He says, "Apokarsis Gebura." It's a true story. Now he was the last one to ever criticize anybody, or you have to know it never talked about Lubavitchers or this one or that one. It wasn't talked about Ksais and Deceivers. That was what he talked about. But what is what are you talking about? You're he wasn't b'chal goyrus the haskama. Ish adam chacham v'dagul. He wasn't even goyrus that, but the koichas, the koichas are coming, and now he's at Monsey Yisbarach, but now he's blowing it to his nostrils. Like the whole thing to him was like screwy. So I'm not. You need to be a gadol to understand these things and paskin these things. But I'm always saying that once you talk about atzvus instead of kalim, now you're the atzvus Yisbarach and I'm the keli. You understand? Like that becomes very, very dangerous raid. Now, dangerous doesn't mean wrong. It's dangerous to touch an electrical wire also. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Get rid of them. You need protect them. But it can be dangerous, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. And I don't know what's right and what's wrong. But what the Nefesh Hachaim here, just saying this point here, what the Nefesh Hachaim is madgish, and it brings out its own set of problems. Has its own set of problems, which are very complicated. That let's understand very clearly that something like the Rambam says, that ein atzmus behusa nichleses klal b'toich gufa adam. Now, we'll leave it with the kashas, but is it Mashiach different? So once you say it's Mashiach, so all the false Mashiachs, which they were false Mashiachs, so they're tiny and good, but I am atzmus. So what is the Rambam telling us, that it's not philosophically tenable? True, but it is philosophically tenable somehow for a Mashiach. So that needs to be misyashev, which I'd like to do. I'd like to be misyashev that problem. But that's the importance of this Nefesh Hachaim. Thank you very much. A good Chodesh. Well, I mean, start off with Easter. You know, like he died, so okay, he's just a goof. You know, big disappointment. Good Friday, he dies. Easter, he gets up, because this is not just a goof. I can't understand for the life of me why they just spent like something like $70 million renovating the burial spot of Yashka if he's not there. Like what's the? It was like, you know, cancel Easter. They found the body. Like,
I mean, the lesson that he's using to describe the shalshelis of the neshama, the same lesson that's used to describe the ephod and the hoshen and the bottom part of the hook.
it is. Look at the Derech Hashem. Yeah, it is. I don't know. I'll tell you in a minute, maybe.